think they're going to be desperate to try and create some sort of a false flag against Russia.
Mm.
If they don't, they are completely dead. I mean, the EU is not going to last. Honestly, at most maybe another year.
To all my listeners and viewers, I'm giving you a real treat. I have Martin Armstrong on with me today. Martin is hosting in November 21st through the 23rd, his 40th anniversary, the 2025 World Economic Conference in Orlando, Florida. You can get tickets linked in the show notes below, both on YouTube and Spotify and Apple, as well as you can stream online. This is the most important conference that I would say outside of Davos. For all the people that don't want to attend Davos, if you would, is the Davos alternative. That's what it's being billed as. Martin Armstrong, good morning to you, my friend. How are you?
Oh, pretty good. Still hanging in here.
Yeah, the world is going crazy, as we were saying off camera here. I want to talk to you about that. What's going on in Europe really right now? You have a huge uprising, it looks like now in the UK. The French government is more or less imploded in the past week. And then you've had, I want to say, 7 really political assassinations in Germany. So, yeah, let's work that out. Let's start with the UK for me, real quick.
Well, we had the inklings that both the UK and France might have to ask for an IMF bailout. That in itself is confirming what I've been saying, all along. That the real problem here is that Europe economically is in serious trouble. They designed the euro completely wrong. And it's all coming to a head. The fact that they're even inkling that they might have to get an IMF bailout shows the real problem. What I've said all along is that it's not the empirical level of the debt that is the issue. The issue is when you can't sell the new debt to pay off the old, because you're in these Ponzi schemes. And they just keep going, on forever. So, the problem in government, they always think they're the exception. I mean, you couldn't possibly go to a bank and just keep borrowing week after week and never pay anything back. They go, oh, yeah, but we're the government. Yeah, okay, fine. They can pass laws that pension funds must have government debt. Banks must have their reserves in government debt. But eventually you run out. And this is what's happening. And Europe, historically, you can look back throughout the centuries, whenever a government is at risk of losing power, it needs an external enemy. For example, Biden, when he put the sanctions on Russia and gasoline prices went up, he said, oh, it's Putin's inflation. All right. You always have to blame somebody else, never yourself. And so this is why I've been warning that Europe needs war with Russia just as a diversion tactic from its own crumbling infrastructure. Ursula just today is putting on what, I don't know, was the 20th or number of sanctions against Russia. I mean, it's just absurd, absolutely absurd. And when it comes to war, and I've spoken to several governments, and you can look at, it's on YouTube, but you can look at Tony Blair's apology for Iraq. And he says, we thought we were freeing them from the tyranny, basically, of Saddam. We didn't realize that we were subjecting them to more sectarian violence afterwards. This is the way governments function. They just look at what's in front of their nose. They never consider what if.
Right.
Now, you take Russia, and they think, okay, we put on these sanctions that will force the people to rise up and overthrow their government. What comes next? They don't answer that question. You had Khrushchev with the Cuban Missile Crisis in '62, and then he had it back down. What happened? There was a coup. Brezhnev came in, right? So you end up with these wild cards. Putin tends to be the most responsible man at the table. He at least understands the game. And then you take somebody like Medvedev. This is why Zelensky wanted to assassinate him. Get rid of Putin, and they make it sound as if this war is just his decision. I'll remove him and it all disappears. No, sorry. You end up with somebody else in there. Maybe, if you did assassinate Putin, the country's going to move extremely right. And you'll probably end up with somebody like Medvedev or whatever. And they want somebody there who will respond emotionally. Oh, you crossed the border into Kursk. That's it. I'm pushing the button. This is what they want.
Mm-hmm.
Putin understands that. That's why he's laid down many red lines. If you give long-range missiles, that's it. They do. And he does nothing. All right. They've invaded Kursk. That will force them to do something. I spoke to even Ukrainian military, and they said they had no idea they were doing that. They were just told to go to the border. And then all of a sudden, the order to invade Russia came from MI6. They keep trying to get him to attack anything in NATO so they can say he's the aggressor. So that's the real problem here. And they pitch it as if you replace Putin and it's all Wonderland or something, and it's just not going to happen.
Yeah, well, comment about what happened recently with Russia. Really, I want to get this correct. Invading, well, maybe we can use that word. The Polish airspace here. Is that coming from Putin, or is that coming from just a show of strength from Russia? What is the reason for that? Again, is it to bring? It seems to me that Russia doesn't want war with NATO or Europe, but correct me if I'm wrong.
Just about every source I have shows that was a false flag, and that they had captured some drones. I mean, there have been other ministers of other countries that have basically said there's no evidence that anything flew from Russia over Poland. They need, you can look it up. It's called Rally Around the Flag. Psychologically, and even Hermann Göring testified to this at his Nuremberg trial. In order to get people to rally up and defend and go to war, you have to present that you've been attacked. If you say, okay, fine, everybody signed up. We don't like Putin. He's a bad guy. Let's go in and invade. They're not going to show up. Right. In the U.S., Roosevelt kept trying to get us into World War II. And Congress would never give a declaration of war. Only when Pearl Harbor was attacked did it. Okay, that got us into the war. So that's what it's called, Rally Around the Flag. And you can look it up. It's a psychological war tactic.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the problem behind false flags. They deliberately do those to get the people to rally up and to justify a war. You can look on Wikipedia, Project Northwood. The CIA had proposed killing Americans to blame it on Cuba to justify an invasion. This is standard operational procedures, actually. Bundestag, fire that Hitler used to get everybody riled up against the communists. These are just always the same thing. So it's they know how to play us, like little toy soldiers or something on your bed, and that's what they do. So Poland, every source I have says that was a false flag, deliberately done to try and get something going here. And then you have newspapers over there, chomping it to bit, calling for a no-fly zone over Ukraine. Okay, so Ukraine can shoot missiles at Moscow, but Moscow can't defend itself now.
Right.
Yeah. It just, it just gets worse by the day with these people.
Yeah. Do you see them continuing to amp up the pressure and the stress? And when I mean they, I mean the West or even NATO, because it seems to me NATO wants a war with Russia for their viability, just to stay viable, if you would.
Yeah, I mean, I actually saw the internal memos when all the money was going to climate change. They were like actually saying, how do we remain relevant? And look, Khrushchev, when he said, we will bury you, he was a legitimate Marxist. He really believed what he was saying. Okay, that was his economic religion.
Right.
He thought communism was going to prevail over capitalism. And so NATO uses that same thing. Oh, Putin wants to invade Europe. He's not a communist. Those theories are all gone. All right. He would have the same problem of getting Russians to invade Europe without an attack. So, I mean, Europe has nothing. Okay.
Right.
Japan went into Manchuria for natural resources and assets. Okay. Europe has nothing. They have to get their energy from Russia. All right. So what are you going to get out of it? You're going to walk into Paris and the French are going to say, oh, thank you. Are you going to pay our pensions now? That's about it, So there's nothing there of value to justify Russia invading Europe. But that's not true the other way. Russia is the richest country in the world from a natural resource perspective. It has about 75 trillion. And I mean, I speak to people, that have been in the government there in France. They call Macron the petite Napoleon. And these people know they're financially in trouble.
Yeah.
And they really think they believe their own BS, really. NATO keeps saying, well, we have 3.4 million. And that's if they invoke Article 5 and even the U.S. shows up against Russia, which has 1.5. So the scenarios they keep putting out is that we can take them in like a week or something. It's Kinzinger, who was on that January 6th committee against Trump. You can Google him. He actually said we can defeat Russia in 3 days. 3 days.
Yeah. Yeah.
They couldn't even do Iraq in 3 days.
Right.
Right?
That's exactly what I thought. Yeah. So
it's
go ahead.
Just crazy.
It is. So I guess that's what you're seeing now, and correct me if I'm wrong, is so Europe is not really getting what they want in regards to war, and maybe they will. But as of right now, they're not. It seems like Putin is showing unbelievable restraint. Correct me if I'm wrong. But now, as you alluded to, if you don't have war, you have pitchforks, if you would. You have an uprising of the people. And is that what you're seeing now in Germany, France, and the UK?
Yeah. I mean, I've been speaking to all those countries, and basically they know they have a problem of people not wanting to get involved in the war, not, signing up for the military, things of this nature. And so that makes them desperate for this false flag issue. And I will say this, I was speaking to someone in Washington who was at least close to Trump. And I gave my opinion. I said, listen, we have to get out of NATO. I think they're going to do a false flag and try and drag us in. Now, I thought, okay, fine. They're probably going to think I'm a conspiracy theorist or whatever. And the response was, no, we know you're right.
Wow.
So
Wow.
I think the reality is coming a bit more here. It's Zelensky is the real problem. And he basically has sabotaged just about every peace deal imaginable. And he takes his orders from, basically from London, Paris, and NATO, really. And you have, Boris Johnson routinely hops on the plane to go over there to tell him, don't sign any peace deals, don't do this. They want war. He even made the front pages of the Norwegian press with his comment that Britain is already in a proxy war with Russia. So the economy is falling apart.
Right.
And, as you know, when they were forming the euro, they came to me, I sat down, said, all right, fine. This is how we create a currency. And it was Helmut Kohl that intervened. And he didn't allow the German people to vote to join the euro. And he admitted before he died that he would have lost 7-3. So his criteria was no consolidation of the debt. And I warned him that back in 98, I said, this is going to fail. This is not your long-term solution. I'm not an academic. I'm a trader. And when you actually have money, skin in the game, you see how things really work.
Right.
If I'm a fund manager, I can pick up the phone and say, buy me $10 billion worth of U.S. treasuries. For Europe, I still have to make the same decisions as if the euro didn't exist. Do I want German debt? Do I want French? Because they're all separate.
Yeah.
Okay. They never consolidated it. And this presents the real threat. Okay. That, let's say, France can't pay its debts like Greece did in 2010. What's going to happen?
Yeah.
You're going to end up with a contagion. All right. In 2010, as soon as all the traders made money shorting Greece, great. Who's next? Oh, Spain. They're in the same position. All right. This is what will happen. It turns into a contagion. Okay. Now we're dealing with France as the second largest economy in the EU. They're going to look at, because of all the banks, you don't have a federal debt. The banks have a cornucopia of debt of all these different countries. So the traders are going to look, okay, who has the most French debt? They're going to short that bank. Okay. So it's
all the debt is
destabilizing the entire thing.
Yeah, no, I got it. But I want to work that out a little bit. So in France, they're going to short each bank, specific bank, because of they are holding the bad debt. I'm saying this because I'm naive. So you're going to see one bank after another in France fail.
Yeah, and not just France, whoever has it. That's what I'm saying, is that because what happens is the bank's reserve must be in government debt.
Got it.
And they say, oh, government is, we're AAA, whatever. We can just print money, whatever they want to say. But that's just not true. So what will happen is you'll get a contagion, and then they'll look at all the banks. Which banks are exposed? Remember, you had the repo crisis.
Yeah, I was just thinking that. It sounds like the 2007, 2008 repo crisis here in the
Right.
US. Go ahead. Go
Well,
ahead.
people don't understand because what that was really about. You had Merkel stand up and say she was against bailing out the banks in Greece.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So then she could be hypocritical. Deutsche Bank people were looking at that, they had big derivatives, etc. So she came out and made a statement if Deutsche Bank was in trouble, she wouldn't bail out Deutsche Bank. That created the repo crisis. Now suddenly the banks in New York are going, well, I'm not going to lend money to Deutsche Bank because she said they're going to, they're not going to be bailed out.
Yeah.
So that created the whole repo crisis. So this is what I mean. It depends upon it's all interconnected here, and it relies upon this confidence in government.
Yeah.
And once that confidence is gone, everything's up for grabs. So it
Okay.
gets pretty bad.
Yeah, no, yes, I would agree. So what do you expect the first domino to fall? Well, it's already fallen, but as far as in the first domino in this contagion, if you would, is it going to be France and their banks? Is it going to be Germany and their banks, or is it going to be the UK and their banks, or another country?
Well, I think it's a basically a coin toss between France and UK. But even if you look at Germany, their rates are starting to rise. You can't at the same time be preaching war and then say, "Hey, you want to buy some bonds?" You know?
Right. Go ahead. Sorry. That's
Go
right.
up in war.
Right.
Simple as that. This has been part of the problem of the Fed and Powell and his reluctance with lowering rates. He knows also what's going on here, and if Europe goes into war, rates are going higher, not lower.
Yeah. And that has profound effects across everything.
Everything. Europe is the epic center of this complete mess.
Yeah.
Japan is another one. You know, if you pick up the rug and you look closely at Japan, you'll see that, yes, Japan's one of the largest holders of U.S. debt, but it's not the government, it's corporations. They buy U.S. debt as a hedge against their own government. Look it up. The central bank of Japan bragged they bought 97% of an auction.
Mm-hmm.
That's good news. That meant nobody wanted to buy it.
Right.
So I mean it, and the press spins. Oh yeah, shows the central bank strong. Does it?
Right.
It's part of our problem is also with the press. They're just a bunch of idiots, and I guess you got a bunch of 23-year-old kids that just, constantly write nonsense. Oh, Russia is going to do this. And do you understand what you're saying?
Mm-hmm.
They're pitching World War III all the time.
Yeah.
It's on talk shows in Europe. This is not a solution.
No, not at all. No, I'm very pro peace. I want peace. So with Europe imploding here, you talk, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I want you to work this out for me. I've learned this from you, actually, from a friend of yours, Tom Luongo, about money flow. Talk about money flow because there's so much money still out there. Where's that going to flow to that you see in the shorter intermediate term? And also about the debt, the U.S. can print its way out of it, and I say that very theoretical, meaning, well, theoretical in the sense they can eliminate the debt problem, but if they print their way out of it, they're going to create so many other problems.
Well, this is also part of, Powell's dilemma. I disagree with Trump Trump has always been a borrower, not a lender.
Yeah.
So when you're on that side of the table, you always want the interest rates as cheap as possible. True. Right.
Right.
But step back from that. And what you'll see is that when interest rates decline, they do so during recession and depression.
Right.
All right. Rates were at 6% in 29. They fell to 1%. Didn't help.
Mhm.
07, to 09, same thing. What it is that ever since I did a lot of research, and I wrote a book back in 86 called The Greatest Bull Market in History. And I had to read all the newspapers trying to get into the thinking process of what they are. And I mean, to tell you just a footnote to history, you have to understand what even a word meant at that time.
Mhm.
You have William Penn, who named Philadelphia because in Great Philadelphia's meant brotherly love. So he took it in the sense of Christian. Yes, I love my brother. That's not what it meant then. It meant incest. That your brother married your sister. Right? That was the brotherly love. So he didn't understand what it really meant at that time. When I was doing the research on this book, it was very fascinating. Before 29, rates were rising. They virtually doubled between 27 and 29. The stock market kept going up. Why? The interpretation was rising interest rates were bullish because it showed there was still a demand for money.
Mm-hmm.
People were still expanding, etc. When people are not willing to borrow, look at the ECB. They went negative in 2014.
Yeah.
And stayed there to 2022. You can't punish somebody for not investing. And this is what I warn these politicians, but it seems to go in one ear and out the other. I said, you'll pay 20% interest if you think the stock market's going to double next year. But if you don't think it's going to go up 1%, you're not going to borrow at 1%.
Right.
So it's got nothing to do with the empirical level of interest rates. It's the expectation. That's even what inflation is. Inflation is basically the expectation of the future value of the currency.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's, you get these people that think that they're, like Bitcoin with fixed. All right. If you have a fixed currency, the money supply can't increase, but you want your wages to increase and your home to appreciate. It's like, you want Christmas, in July too, I mean,
Right.
there's certain things that just, they all have to go together.
Yeah.
You can't have inflation, and basically, or no inflation and with, fixed exchange rates, but you want real estate in your house to go up in value. It's none of the, you got to be on the same ballpark here.
Yeah. Well, that goes back to, where do you see the U.S. here, what we're entering? Do you see a deflationary cycle here, or do you see stability, or do you see the continued inflationary cycle here?
It still appears to be more of a like stagflation into 28. Because also when you go into war, you normally get shortages.
Mm-hmm.
But we're still dealing with to a large extent with COVID. I mean, I had emails from farmers that, okay, we're locked down, so you couldn't get a truck to deliver food for your chickens. You couldn't send your chickens to market. So I got emails from farmers that had to kill like 30,000 chickens.
Gosh.
And then you have politicians. Oh, these greedy farmers, they want more for their eggs. You know, um,
Right.
it's just absurd. But so the COVID did a lot of damage. And look, I can tell you that Klaus Schwab, I've met him 3 months before COVID even happened.
Mhm.
He was telling friends, I believe, a virus is coming.
So his
You
plan.
know, what the real objective of it was climate change. Let's back and look at what they did.
Mhm.
All right. The whole nonsense of 15-minute cities, it was to prevent people from commuting,
Mhm.
to force them to work from home.
Mhm.
Okay. So, Zoom meetings took up, all this. And what do we have? We have a problem with commercial real estate today.
Yeah.
People didn't
Huge.
go back to offices, things of this nature. Europe was even worse.
Mhm.
You wiped out so many small businesses in Germany. Then on top of that, they put in the climate change reg. Uh, and I was in Berlin. I had a meeting in the morning and I had a meeting in the afternoon in Rome. 2 major cities. There was no direct flights.
Right.
First time I had to hire a private jet to make the next meeting.
Gosh.
And I was like, huh? You got to be kidding me. The only direct flight was like 6:30 in the morning, and that was it. One.
Wow.
Oh, for climate change, we have to stop all these people flying around.
Right.
Very nice. Okay. People are using private jets more now than they did before because of this.
Yeah.
And so then they put the sanctions on Russia. All right.
Mhm.
You saw tens of thousands of workers protesting Volkswagen, because then they told the auto, okay, you have to, produce electric car. These decisions are coming from some back room with people with zero experience in anything.
Right.
They couldn't even be a dog catcher.
Yeah.
And so you look at Germany, the economy has actually shrunk.
Yeah.
At least by 3%, maybe up to 5%. And by shrinking, what I mean is that small businesses were put out of operation. And so
Mhm.
the number of possible jobs has declined. All right.
Right.
So you're talking, so the COVID, then the climate change, and then the sanctions on Russia. Uh, so all of this has combined into an economic decline for Europe, worse than the United States.
Mhm.
They appear more likely to go into a depression. And we're more prone to be more into a stagflation. We didn't get as bad as Europe did. I'm here in Florida, and you still see, people with signs up, "Thank you, DeSantis. We weren't locked down. Small businesses didn't go out of business, whatever." And go up to Fifth Avenue in New York City, and a lot of the places are gone.
Yeah.
So it's, that's been an issue as well. So the United States is not as in dire straits as you're seeing in Europe.
Which is really bleak in Europe.
It's terrible. And then you have this nonsense. I was on the phone with people from Romania, and they were told by the EU to accept another 100,000 immigrants. Why? They think they can actually draft these people to send, put them a gun, and go kill some Russians.
Yeah.
And so you're seeing this um, we're a global scale that this is really the left versus the right.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not just with the assassination here, but this is um, Brazil going after Bolsonaro
Mm-hmm.
and 27 years in jail. They did this to Le Pen in France. They're doing it to, in Romania as well. They're using the law, and they tried to do it with Trump. All right. They're trying to use the law to eradicate their opposition.
Right.
Is really what's going on.
Yeah.
AfD in Germany is now the second largest economy or political party. And politicians, look, I've been doing this longer than you know, and you asked me in high school, would you ever want to be doing something like this? I would have thought you were crazy. But for 50 years, I've been dealing with governments here. And look, I mean, give you an example. Back in 80, when Volcker was raising interest rates to 14%, I met with the Treasury. I was naive back then, and I said, guys, these rates they're crazy.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to double the national debt by the end of the decade. And they politely said, yeah, Marty, but we'll be paying back with cheaper dollars. I said,
Yeah.
oh, okay. I guess you know what you're doing, So I've seen it from every which way from Sunday. I mean, and governments will never admit a mistake.
No, I would agree with you on that. So, talk a little bit more about what do you think the outcome is really for Europe here? Do you think they go into civil war? Do you think they break apart? Do you think NATO breaks apart here? You think that's inevitable?
I think they're going to be desperate to try and create some sort of a false flag against Russia.
Mm.
If they don't, they are completely dead. I mean, the EU is not going to last. Honestly, at most maybe another year.
Wow.
So, I mean, look, I've done podcasts throughout Europe from Netherlands to Palermo. And 3 years ago, it would be like, you really think the EU is going to break up? Yes. Today, it's like, when? Everybody's fed up with it. The reason you have like AFD rising, things in Spain, everywhere, is that these politicians, instead of admitting that this whole migrant issue was a mistake, they doubled down on it.
Mm-hmm.
And, they tried outlawing the AFD, and they called them Nazis. What? Because they, against the immigration. I mean, you can look it up. In 1844 in Philadelphia, there were gun battles on the streets because the Irish were coming in. When you bring in migrants during economic decline, all right, it's a powder keg.
Yeah.
All right. You're working, you're getting $10 an hour. I come in, I'll do it for $8. All right.
Yeah.
So then you get mad at me because I'm taking your job. This is what happened. So it actually turned into a gun battle on the streets of Philadelphia in 1844. This is what Europe is facing. You're having these the migrants, and they're not. The worst part of it is that they didn't come there to assimilate. In Sweden, they've actually hung up signs saying "Shira law" here. You're seeing that even in Texas. You can't invade a country and bring your culture with you. If you do not assimilate, forget it. Back in '98 when I was meeting with them to create the euro, I said, you don't understand what made America great. I said it was discrimination. They go, "Oh, how can you say that?" I said, "Because it was fair. Whoever was the last off the boat didn't get the job until they spoke English." All right.
Right.
So you now ask an American, what are they? They go, I'm half Irish, half Italian, whatever. Everybody intermarried. You don't
Mhm.
see that in Europe. I mean,
Mhm.
sure, there's some exceptions, but I mean, um, the language keeps people apart,
Mhm.
and then the cultures keep people apart. And then you have, you know, the EU covertly, they've basically given Zelensky the green light to attack energy, hoping that they can cut off the energy flow to Hungary to overthrow the government.
Yeah. Gosh, that's crazy.
And it's again, it's just well, we have to get rid of Orban. What comes after?
Right.
Nobody asked that question,
Right.
and that's my concern that this whole thing is just a real mess. I'm concerned that they're so desperate that they will create war. And I think you're going to start seeing the markets move after this week because I think, again, you got the Fed meeting and everything's fine. Uh, what then?
Right.
Okay. The Fed understands what's going on here. If you think they're going to keep lowering the interest rates perpetually while you got war coming, wrong. Not going to happen. Um, Trump is better get some better advisors because him going after the Fed undermines the confidence in the financial system.
Mhm.
Okay. That's not good for the markets.
No.
If you don't trust the markets, you don't put your money there.
Yeah. Talk a little bit about real quickly, two things, and we'll end on this, is the whole situation with Venezuela, us attacking a boat or a ship, was that a false flag? Do you see that as, or do you have any opinion on that? Do you think we're going to go into Venezuela? And if so, why? Is it because of the oil, or is that just a false flag event? And then also weaving the Middle East, just it seems like they're uniting, if you would, for the first time in I don't know how long. Um, yeah, work that out for me, both of those situations.
Well, I think the problem here is that um, in the Middle East, you have a conflict of two groups. One, you have some Masonic Jews that are talking about bringing about the Messiah, get rid of the Dome of the Rock, and fulfill the prophecy. Then you have um, evangelical Christians there with the same thing, except it's
Mhm.
Christ that's coming. But in both cases, they seem to be deliberately trying to create a crisis. And um, look, I grew up in the Philadelphia area. I can tell you that BB went to school in Philadelphia. I don't know if a lot of people know that.
I didn't know that.
Uh, and worse yet, he was very good friends with the Crystal. I know Bill Crystal. His father, Irving, started the whole neocon movement.
Mhm.
BB was at their family gatherings routinely. BB is one of the neocons. And this is why he comes across as a hardliner, whatever. And I think Trump made a big mistake understanding that neocons like Victoria Nuland, uh, etc., were a problem, always trying to instigate war. And he didn't realize that BB was one of them.
Mhm.
So, unfortunately, I think his policies have increased the anti-Semitic attitudes, not just in universities and stuff, but you're talking about it throughout Europe as well. Um,
Mhm.
so this is all coming to a head, and it's just what our computers show is that we are going into World War III, but don't look at it from a standpoint of just Europe versus Russia. You're seeing what I would say that I've discovered over the years. Largely is that war does not come when everybody's fat and happy. War
Right.
comes when the economy turns down. All right. And that's the phase we're in right now. So you're seeing conflicts rising in the Middle East.
Mhm.
Then you have like Thailand versus Cambodia. Thailand even now talking about maybe putting tax on gold. And India, Pakistan. You got Brazil, which could go into a civil war, throwing Bolsonaro in for 27 years. That's basically telling half the country, take it and stuff it. We're seeing it here in the United States. The big division, taking out Charlie only turns him into a hero, into a martyr.
Mhm.
And I think his whole organization has exploded with new people joining now.
Yeah.
It's there's an old story from the Egyptian religion that they killed Osiris because largely he was sent here to help mankind or whatever, and they didn't like it, so they buried him. And they saw his followers were still going to his grave, so they dug up the body, chopped it up in parts, and spread it around the neighborhood.
Mhm.
His wife gathered all the parts and wrapped it in linen, and then supposedly he rose from the dead. That's why you have Egyptians mummified the body.
Mhm.
All right. But that's the same story. You can kill the guy, but you didn't kill what he stood for.
Or the movement. Yeah.
That's the mistake they made here with Charlie. And it only inflames it more.
Mhm.
The United States is also deeply divided. We're going to see it increase, and eventually the United States will break up as well. You can't have this deep divide over this nonsense. And like California, I'm in Florida. California to me is like a communist state practically.
Yeah.
It's so, abnormal.
Mhm.
Hey, I was in Austin, Texas in a meeting, and they said they wanted to move to Florida. And I said, why? And they said, well, they got to swim to get to you. It's, so you're seeing it everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's in it usually correlates with the economy declining.
Mhm.
So as we go into this recession, which the computers projecting will not bottom until 28. All right. The tensions here, Europe, Asia, are only going to increase.
Yeah. It's just being ratcheted up more.
Yeah. You know, China, Taiwan, North Korea versus the South, and Japan. All of this is coming to a head. It's wherever there used to be a grudge, it's resurfacing.
Yeah.
And it just seems to correlate with the economics. And as I've tried to explain many times, computer has correlated everything. And what comes out of it has taught me a very good lesson. You don't get war when everybody's fat and happy. Turn the economy down. Look, you had the Great Depression. All right. That brings Roosevelt political change. I don't care if they're left or right. Whoever's in power is basically always thrown out. You put, the reparation uh, payments on to punish the German. Okay, fine. You're punishing them for their previous leaders. So what happens? They turn to Hitler. All right. You always get that sort of response, and so the economy, I would say, is the number one cause. And when that turns down, it increases the tensions and aggravations of people, and you get political change.
Yeah, and it looks like
left, right, doesn't matter, but it's you get political change.
Yeah, and that's what we're seeing right now all across Europe. And that's what we saw really with Trump, I think. The reason why he was elected, people wanted change. Yeah.
They didn't understand. People. I think Julius Caesar said over 2,000 years ago, people believe what they want to believe. And he was right. Nothing's really changed. And so you get these neocons, and you look at what they've actually said, like, Kinzinger, oh, we can take Russia in 3 days. So we can defeat China in what, 5?
Yeah. What an idiot.
It's, but they believe what they want to believe.
Yeah.
And you can't, if you think you can talk to a fool and convince him he's foolish, you're the fool.
Right.
You're not gonna be able to use logic. They don't use logic.
Yeah.
It's what it is, what Caesar said. They want to believe. That's it. So Europe, I see that they just want to believe that they can conquer Russia. And take a look at, you have Kayla. She actually has come out and said that Russia is too big and should be broken up.
It's like it's her decision.
We're not talking about pushing Russia out of Ukraine. They're not satisfied with that.
Yeah.
This is about the conquest of Russia. And it's for the natural resources. And as I said, I've spoken to serious people high up in France. What do they say? And besides calling Macron the petite Napoleon, they really think some of these people are so deranged, they think they can conquer Russia, take the 75 trillion in assets. That's twice the size of the U.S. national debt, and Europe will rise again to lead the world. Delusional. Erdogan in Turkey wants to resurrect the Ottoman Empire. I mean, you get these things all the time. I don't know. They live in the glory of the past or something. We handed a handful of jets to Greece and made the front page of the news. Oh, now we can do a sneak attack on Turkey. I mean, the hatred between the Turks and the Greeks go back to Alexander the Great.
Yeah.
You're not going to change these things. It's just cultural. And you can't say, I mean, before Yugoslavia broke up, I was called into the government there. And I'll never forget, they said, oh, they killed over 600 of us and threw us in a common grave. And I thought, oh my God, I missed something on the news. And I said, when did this happen? Oh, about 700 years ago. I said, oh, okay, that one. Yeah, all right. The memories just are there forever. Even you had the former Chancellor of Germany, Bismarck, in 1888, say Europe's going to be engulfed in a major war and it's going to come from the Balkans, which it did in 1914. Serbia killed the Austrian. But that area it was conquered by the Ottoman Empire. So you have Islam, you have Orthodox Christianity, and Western Christianity. Then you get all the ethnic differences. All right. I mean, even the cultural differences. For example, if you cross the Russian mafia, Okay, fine, they'll kill you. And they'll send flowers like an Italian to your widow. Cross an Armenian, they kill you, the wife, the kids, and the dog. Why? Because they don't want any retaliation.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So they're different cultures. And you have to understand all these different beliefs. You go to Germany and you greet somebody, you kiss them on each side of the cheek. You go to Switzerland, the third one, please. And you have to do it 3 times. No, 2 is bad luck. All right. Okay. So everybody has their own thing, and it's that's what makes the world interesting to travel in.
Right.
But this is where we're going. So unfortunately, it is recession into 2028, and with that, expect increases in tensions, particularly next year. But I think you're going to start seeing them increase after this week, geopolitically on a global scale.
Well, I hope and pray that cooler heads will prevail. I don't think I'll be right. So,
now, the problem in the European situation is you have no right to even vote for the head of state.
Exactly.
Ursula is appointed. You can look her up, Google her. She has never even stood for any election ever in her entire life.
Right.
And then the people that make the laws in the back, same thing. The European Parliament, you can vote for it, but look it up. It has no right to even make a law. It's just a ceremony.
Right. Yeah. Well, Martin, I've kept you too long. We'll end on that. I just want to say thank you. This is Martin Armstrong with Armstrong Economics. I'll put all of the links to you in all of the show notes. And I just want to thank you so much for your time and love to have you on again soon.
Well, thank you for inviting me. It's we certainly do live in interesting times, right?
Yeah, don't we? Thank you. Take care.
Goodbye.